Okay, folks, I think let's go ahead and get started. I apologize in advance. There's a lot of information to cover here. I'm going to blast through it pretty fast, though, to try to keep within that 15 minutes or so. But this slide deck will be posted with the YouTube video. Um,
Margaret, I'm on
so I'll go
the
ahead and
screen.
get going.
It's a
And
coffee chat about starting college essays.
And just a reminder, if you wouldn't mind muting yourselves, I can hear some of your conversations. Thank you. Okay, so getting started with college essays. Fun times. Okay, so first of all, the importance of the essay. Super important piece of your application. It's really, well, from the college side of things, the essay shows them sort of who the applicant is. Will this applicant be somebody that can contribute in a positive way and bring value to their campus? And honestly, it'll determine whether you can write or not. Okay, so colleges want to know sort of those three things. But within that, the essay shows your students' authenticity, whether there's been adversity that they've had to overcome. It will show, hopefully it will show leadership, maybe impact, passion, creativity, all these super cool buzzwords. Will also show community engagement, service. Community, again, can be large or small. It can be just community within your family, community engagement service, or bigger than that. Again, this ability to write a coherent thought, that is pretty evident in some students' essays, both pro and con to that. And then your voice. So a student's voice, this is really the piece where students can really show who they are and what they're passionate about and what they're interested in. And that passion is your voice that really comes through in the essay. So this is a super important part of your application. And this little, not little, but this line that I bolded at the very bottom here, going into your senior year and writing your senior applications. Writing your senior applications. The essay is really the only part that you still have control over. So all your grades are done. Your testing is, if you've decided to do it, is mostly done, at least by early fall. And then your activities are mostly done. But your essay, this is just a blank slate right now going into your senior year where you have complete control over. So use that piece to your advantage. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking for in the essay and what colleges are looking for. So how to start that. So you need to start with some sort of a college list. At least in general terms, you need to know where or what type of schools you're applying to, because certain types of schools have certain essays, okay? So in general terms, you at least need to have a basic list to work off of. It doesn't need to be complete. Hopefully that will happen within the next few months or so. You'll have that complete list. But at this point, just in general terms, are you applying to the UCs? Are you applying to schools that are on the Common App? Maybe a couple on the Coalition application. Just in general terms, you need to know where. And then I always like students to start their essays actually with their activities list. So what I like all students to do, and we touched on this last week with the extracurricular activities, is just create a list of everything, literally everything that you've been a part of since before freshman year started. So once you were promoted from the junior high, what have you done? Both formal and informal activities. So real briefly on that, the formal are the structured activities, the sports, maybe community service, maybe a school club. That's kind of paid work. Those are formalized, structured activities. Informal could be responsibilities at home, childcare for younger siblings. Maybe you're responsible for going grocery shopping, things like that. The more informal, that might be more suited to the family. Like, what are your family responsibilities? They could also be just hobbies. Maybe you are really interested in reading novels. That can be an informal activity too. And then once you have that list, try to identify which ones are the ones that are most meaningful to you, but also the ones that maybe have cool stories that you can tell about it. And that can help us when we're starting to look at the prompts for the essays. Next step is brainstorming. So once you have that step 1 and step 2 down, the next step is looking at the prompts and looking at all the prompts and brainstorming ideas for how could I answer this. Just a few bullet points. Just what are some topics that I could
Hold on.
leadership question on? What are some topics I could answer for my favorite academic subject? Or how am I creative? Okay, so try to brainstorm for all of them. And don't discount a question at face value. So if you're looking through, for example, we'll talk about the UCs in just a minute, but you're looking through the UC personal insight questions. There are 8 of them. When you're going through them, jot down some ideas for all of them. Don't just look at one and say, oh, I have no leadership. I can't answer that question. Not true. Once you start thinking and jotting down some ideas, do that for all of them, because something that you initially discount might end up being a really strong essay or response to that question. And then step 4, guess what? You get to write, and you get to write, and you get to write over and over and over again. This is the piece that is going to take the longest for your college applications, because you need to go through drafts, multiple drafts. Okay, you have to. You just have to. I know your English teachers probably say, well, the final essay is going to be 3 drafts later, and you might just groan. That's what you have to do with the college essay. You really have to go through those drafts and edits and scratch out and write some more. Okay. All right, so that's kind of where to start. Now, let's talk about real briefly the different types of questions out there. So the UCs I already mentioned. So if you're thinking about applying to any of the 9 undergraduate campuses, you will be asked to answer 4 of 8 questions. So you're given 8 prompts, and you have to write on 4 of them. So again, what I said before, take all 8 and just jot down some ideas for all 8 of them and see which ones do you think are going to create a cool story. Okay. These are really short, 350 words maximum. It really equates to about 2 paragraphs or so. So it's really, really short. The other important thing to pay attention to here is many of them, not all 8, but many of them are 2-part questions. That's really important to pay attention to, because if it's a 2-part question, you need to answer both parts, unless it says or. Okay. So if the question has an or, then pick one or the other. But most of them are 2-part questions, so pay attention to that. And the UC says this to us all the time. These are not essays. They are questions. So if you're asked a question in a test in school, you just immediately start answering it. There's no introduction, there's no preamble, you just answer the question. That's what the UCs want. So they don't want fluffy writing, they want you to get to the point and answer the question. Okay. Again, 350 words, that might seem like a lot, but 2 paragraphs or so, it's really not a lot of words to be able to answer even a 2-part question. Contractions, totally okay. So don't, can't, won't, things like that. That saves words, okay? Can't instead of cannot, that's 1 word versus 2. And if over the course of 350 words, you want to save those words, okay? I get questions on this all the time. How many words do I have to write if my maximum is 350? You don't have to get to 350 exactly, but I would absolutely advise you to maximize your word count as much as possible. I usually say if you've answered the questions over 300 words or so, then you're probably totally fine. You just need to answer those prompts and then maximize your word count on them. And this is also really important. So there's 4 questions that you're answering. They should be 4 separate topics. There can be some minimal overlap, but what this, from So imagine me as the admissions officer. I'm reading your application. I want to know as much as possible about who you are. So if I know that you have a strong interest in business and I read 3 of your prompts are all related to business and maybe another prompt is something else, I'm not learning that much about you. I just have learned that you're really interested in business. I haven't learned about what other things you're also interested in. So from an admissions counselor standpoint, I want to learn as much as possible about who you are. So 4 separate topics, if at all possible. Okay, Common App and Coalition. Very similar structures. Common App has about 900 colleges, Coalition about 150. So between them, you can apply to about 1,000 colleges if you want, which you won't be doing. Common App has 7 prompts and you only pick 1. Coalition has 5 prompts and you pick 1. They're very similar type questions. But it's more of a formalized essay structure. So you have 650 words and a little bit less for the Coalition. So again, try to maximize it, but 650 is a lot more than that 350. So it needs to be a little bit more of an essay structure. Introduction, you don't really have to have that much of a conclusion, but an intro and then get descriptive and explain. Show, not tell, we like to say. Common App also has a COVID pandemic specific question that is optional. Please do answer this if there has been something over the last few months that has really impacted you. Okay. This could also be a great place to explain, why did you pick a letter grade versus credit, or why did you pick credit versus a letter grade, knowing that our school district gave you all an option. Okay. So explain that in there. Consideration here. So work smarter, not harder, right? So if these are very similar questions, can you write one essay that is going to be for both? Now the word counts are different, so you have to pay attention to that. So if you're writing the Common App first, you might have to shrink it a little bit for the Coalition. But when it comes down to it, make sure you are answering the prompts. So again, I said the questions are similar, they're not exact. Okay, so there will be some edits that you might have to make. Okay, so that's sort of the main essay parts of your applications. Now let's talk about supplemental questions. So this won't be on the UC system. This is only out-of-state publics, out-of-state private schools. Each individual college has the opportunity to ask you an additional question or more, or many. Most of the time, these are much shorter, maybe 150 words, 200 words or so. So some examples. Why this college? Probably the most popular question out there. Why Tufts? Why Bowdoin? And you basically just have to write a really short answer to why you want to go to that school. A couple others you see here. One I really like, this one, the 4th bullet down there. We want to understand you better. Tell us about a skill you have, useless or useful, and what it says about you. So sometimes colleges will toss in a question like this that's kind of more playful, just to see how you're going to respond to that kind of thing. Okay. So supplemental questions, they're additional questions that colleges can ask. Not every single one will, but some will. Okay. So make sure you're paying attention to not just deadlines, but also all aspects of the application. Is this college asking me an additional question? So pay attention to that. Now, additional comments sections. Just about every application out there has an additional comments section. That basically means it's fair game for you to put anything you want in there that you deem important for an admissions officer to know about you. Okay. So examples, tragedies that affected your education. So mudslide a couple years ago, fires a couple of years ago. Were you homeless for a while? Were there massive medical expenses, deaths in the family? So tragedies, things like that, that cause dips in your GPA or a semester of bad grades. Explain it, okay? Just talk about it. This is also a key key place to explain what the academy is that you are in. So we don't want to put that in the activities section. We want to explain what it is. So explain what VADA is, explain what MAD is, and explain what computer science is in the additional comments. Okay, you could write a paragraph on what is MAD. So do that there as opposed to in your activities section. Again, additional comments. Like I said about the COVID pandemic question on the Common App, this is where you explain why did you pick credit versus a letter grade, or why did you pick a letter grade versus credit? You don't really have to address this if on your transcript you picked all grades. You don't really have to explain it. But if there's a mix and match, if there's a couple credits and a couple grades, you need to address it and explain why you chose that. And I can help you with any of that too. If you're struggling with how to say that, I can help you as we get closer to deadlines and when school starts and all that. Schedule conflicts, great thing to put into additional comments. So you really wanted to do ASB and AP Chem, but it was the same period. You couldn't do both, you had to pick. So that's a great opportunity to explain. Say, master schedule constraints, I really wanted to do both of these, I couldn't, I had to choose, that kind of a thing. Or a schedule conflict forced you to take a class at City College, things like that. So you can address that. And you can also add in links to outside web stuff about you. So we have some students that are creating like maybe a 2-minute just video about yourself. You could put a link to that in there. You could put a link to a really awesome LinkedIn profile that you have. Things like that. Not all colleges will look at them, but again, it's another piece that might be showing a college who you are. Okay, a couple do's and don'ts. I'm almost done here. Yeah, these are important. So start with the positive. Do have an outsider read your essays or your questions. Somebody that knows you, but maybe not too well, okay? So have some, just so that they can see if their understanding from what you're writing is what you want them to understand. Okay, that's important to know. Show, not tell. I've said this a couple times. Be descriptive in your writing. Don't just say, I'm a good dancer. Explain why you're a good dancer. Okay? Try to be unique and interesting if at all possible. Okay? Hopefully there's something over the course of your last 3 years that has been unique and has been interesting. Talk about that. Absolutely answer the prompt that's asked of you. Don't answer something else. Really look at the prompt and answer that prompt. And then I said this at the very beginning, but brainstorm for all prompts and then start to make decisions on which ones you're going to answer. Now on the don't side, please don't be humorous if you are not humorous, okay? Hopefully your friends can tell you if you are or aren't. Don't try to be funny in your essay if you're not. I promise you most of the time it won't come across as funny. Please don't include a specific college name in your essay. If you're applying to Duke, don't include a name of UNC Chapel Hill. 1, arch rivals, okay? And 2, Duke will automatically say, yeah, you're not coming if you're saying somebody else's college name in your essay. Don't do that. Don't write about a common topic without something unique about your story. So don't write about winning a playoff soccer match if there's not something really unique about that kind of an experience. Okay, that's one of the most common that colleges read are sports references and winning the big game and things like that. So it needs to be unique. Absolutely keep your entire application positive. You don't want to start going negative. You don't want to start saying, it was because of this teacher's fault that I got this grade. Keep everything positive, and we can find a way to frame things in a positive way, but stay positive. And please don't forget to spell check. And also really important, don't forget to grammar check. Okay, that's really important too. All right, some other resources out there that I use all the time, hopefully you can use too. Summer webinars. There's all sorts of summer webinar stuff going on right now, especially because of COVID. I've posted as many things as I can find on our college and career calendar. There's a group out there called RAC, Regional Admissions Counselors of California. They're producing YouTube videos this summer as well. One of their videos, they've done a couple sessions now, is just on the college essay. So some of what I've talked about in here, but also going much deeper on the college essay, pretty good to check out. Specifically for the UCs, they're having webinars all summer long about the entire application, and then some specifically about their personal insight questions. So register for one of those, watch one of those, can be very, very helpful. And because it's coming directly from a UC person, you can trust that their information is really strong and really solid. And then what I use a lot personally is this guy out there. He's based in LA. I've known him for years. College essay guy. He produces all sorts of free stuff and sends it out totally for free. No contracts, no sign up, any of that kind of stuff. And he posts a lot of free resources on the essays, the personal insight questions, supplementals, all that good stuff. So those are some other resources for you to check out. You can always email me and send me a Google Drive link of your essays, and I can give you some feedback and thoughts on it. Again, I'm not an English teacher, so have somebody else look at some more so grammatical type stuff. But in terms of content, and if you're answering the prompt, and is this interesting, I absolutely can tell you that kind of stuff. And I am kind of blunt a lot of the times with student essays, so be warned. All right. Upcoming schedule. Next week, we're going to talk about athletic recruitment and NCAA and AIA stuff, if you're interested in any of that. And then we're going to get into financial aid. Very end of this month, I'm going to do 2 sessions. One, just the overall basics of financial aid. And then the second one is going to be for those data and numbers people out there. I'm going to really dive into the true costs and the numbers game. Okay. And then specifically for the Common App, if any of you were able to join me last week for the UC myths and changes, we're going to do another one for the Common App. Now, there's not a lot of changes for the Common App, but there's a lot more to the application of the Common App. So, do that at the end of the month, July 30th webinar. That one you'll need to register ahead of time, but the other ones are just like that, just like this, coffee chats. You can hop on whenever you want to. Okay, all those videos that I've done are on YouTube. Just search my name. I just did one this past weekend on just a basic overview of US college admissions. I wanted it to be short, but it was 30 minutes still. I'll be darned. Time flies.